In a small town surrounded by rolling hills and vast green fields lived Camila, a 12-year-old girl, and her 13-year-old boyfriend, Alexander. Their love was palpable despite their tender ages, a love that seemed destined to overcome any obstacle. However, the news Camila had to share with Alexander on that spring afternoon would put their bond to the ultimate test. "I'm pregnant," Camila revealed to Alexander, her heart pounding so loudly she feared he might hear it. Alexander's initial reaction was far from what she expected. He was stunned at first, but his expression soon transformed into one of overwhelming joy. "We're going to have a baby. Oh my God, I'm going to be a father," he exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with the prospect of parenthood. Despite the happiness, it was tempered with fear. Both knew that their families, especially Camila's conservative and traditional parents, would never accept the situation. It was a time when young people often married early and started families before reaching what we now consider adulthood. Furthermore, their families were rivals, as their parents were competitors in the rice-selling business. The young couple decided to keep the pregnancy a secret, a decision that led them to live each day under a veil of anxiety and fear. As the months passed, Camila's growing belly began to betray the secret they fought so hard to keep. Loose clothing was no longer enough, and inquisitive glances became more frequent. Pressured by the impending revelation of the truth, they devised a daring plan. They would run away together, far from the judgment of their families, to build a new life with their expected child. "We can go to the big city and start fresh. No one will know us there," Alexander suggested, trying to instill hope in Camila's anxious heart. "I'll be 14 soon. I can get a job. We'll be a family. Just you, me, and our baby," he continued, holding her hands tightly. Camila felt torn between the excitement of a new life with her love and the fear of the unknown. "What if something goes wrong? What if we can't make it?" she questioned, her uncertainty eroding the brief happiness she felt. But they decided it was their best option. The night before their planned escape, Camila's room was filled with scattered clothes and a simple open suitcase where she was packing. She spent the night wide awake, wrapped in a mix of nervousness and a strange sense of farewell. Before the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, while darkness still reigned, she knew it was time to leave everything she knew behind. However, fate, indifferent to human desires, intervened and everything went wrong. Camila and Alexander, desperate and driven by the impulse to protect their child's future, ventured into the dense forest bordering the town under the cover of night. 7 months pregnant, Camila felt each step as a challenge, but the hope of a free and secure life for their small family gave her the strength to keep going. 30 years later, in an unexpected and inexplicable twist of fate, Camila found her son in a small town, surrounded by the same rolling hills and vast green fields where her story began. The reunion, filled with emotions and revelations, was a testament to the enduring power of love and the mysterious ways the universe works. Fate had other plans. In the heart of the forest, far from any medical help, Camila began to feel the first pains of premature labor. "No, no, I can't have the baby now," she screamed, her voice a mixture of fear and agony as she writhed on the cold, damp ground. Each contraction hit her like a tidal wave, making her cry out for help. "Alex, I can't. It hurts too much," she yelled, while Alexander, pale and terrified, realized the gravity of the situation. With no other choice, Alexander sprinted back to the town, his mind in turmoil and fearing the worst, to seek Camila's parents. When her parents arrived, the scene they found was one of sheer desperation. Camila, exhausted and drenched in sweat, was giving birth under the stars, guided only by her instincts and a desperate love for her child. Her father, a man of stern features and a heart hardened by anger, looked on with a mixture of shock and disdain. Holding her child for the first and last time, Camila felt a wave of love and pain so intense it took her breath away. "My baby, my little miracle," she whispered, tears mingling with the sweat on her face. Alexander knelt beside them, gently caressing his son's tiny face. But the moment was fleeting. Without a word, Camilla's father tore the baby from her arms, ignoring her desperate screams and Alexander's attempts to intervene. The boy lunged at him, trying to reclaim his son. But a brutal slap from Camilla's father sent him sprawling to the ground, the impact echoing through the silent forest. "I should kill you both," her father shouted, turning away and disappearing into the darkness with the newborn. In the days that followed, the young couple was kept apart, a wall of silence and prohibitions erected between them. However, their stubborn and resilient love found secret ways. Forbidden to see each other, they arranged furtive meetings under the cover of night and exchanged letters filled with longing and shared dreams, keeping the flame of their union alive. The pain of being separated from their son was a constant shadow in Camilla's life, a void that seemed impossible to fill. Alexander, equally tormented by the loss, vowed to himself that he would find a way to reunite their family. "I promise, Cammy, we will be together again. All of us," he whispered during their rare, clandestine meetings, determination shining in his eyes. Defying all expectations, Camilla and Alexander, united by the unbreakable love they had nurtured since adolescence, married as soon as she turned 18, despite her father's fierce opposition. They forged their path together, determined to build a life far from the shadows of their past. They moved to a new city and began a beautiful journey together. The life they built was filled with simple joys and precious moments, and they were blessed with 2 more children whose laughter filled their home. Despite the heartache and the obstacles they faced, Camilla and Alexander's love endured. Their story was a testament to the strength of their bond and the power of love to overcome even the most insurmountable challenges. Their home, filled with music and tight embraces, was a constant reminder of the love that bound the family together. Alexander worked tirelessly to provide for them, while Camilla dedicated herself to raising their children with the same love and tenderness she had always dreamed of giving to the first child they were forced to leave behind. Despite the happiness that permeated her life, the young mother could never forget the child who had been so cruelly taken from them. Her heart still ached for his absence, like an open wound that never fully healed. Almost every night, she was haunted by vivid nightmares where she saw her first son growing up, wandering alone through the streets with eyes full of questions and a deep sadness that cut through her soul. In these visions, he seemed lost and abandoned, his small hands reaching out for a connection that never came. She saw him in dark alleys, his face illuminated only by the faint glow of a distant street lamp, his eyes pleading for help and love. Camilla would run towards him, but the closer she tried to get, the further he seemed to drift away, dissolving into the darkness before she could touch him. Waking from these nightmares with her heart pounding and tears streaming down her face, she was often consoled by her husband. Alexander would hold her tightly, trying to chase away the pain that haunted her nights. "Everything will be okay, my love," he whispered, burying his face in her hair, trying to offer comfort. "We will find him someday, I promise." But no matter how much she tried to hold on to the hope offered by her husband's words, the image of the son she had never known, never held, or kissed remained etched in her mind, tormenting her. 30 years had passed since they were separated from their child, and at 42, Camilla carried the weight of a life marked by dreams and nightmares. The decades had not dulled the intensity of those nightly visions. On the contrary, the child in her dreams grew older with each passing year, as if in her subconscious she was imagining how he would be now. One particularly disturbing night, the worst of all, she awoke in a panic, her heart racing and tears wetting her face. He was there, hurt, and no one could help him. "I couldn't move, and then he was gone," she told Alexander. Her voice choked with emotion as she tried to catch her breath. Her husband, always the pillar of strength in her life, held her tightly, trying to offer some comfort. "They're just dreams, love. They can't hurt you," he whispered, though deep down, The void left by their first child's absence pained him as well. "But I can't help but feel like it's a premonition," Camila murmured, unable to shake the sensation that something terrible was about to happen. Were her visions merely dreams, or was there something more significant behind them? She voiced this concern because the next day, as she was returning home from work in the evening, a sense of unease washed over her. Thoughts of the previous night's dreams swirled in her mind like a dark cloud, even eclipsing the bright moonlight. She walked automatically towards the bus stop, lost in her thoughts, when a sudden, metallic sound shattered the silence, followed by an instant chorus of screams and exclamations. Horrified, people screamed, "My God!" as they watched the car collide with a motorcycle. The impact was so powerful that it hurled the motorcyclist through the air in a violent, uncontrolled arc. For a moment, time seemed to freeze for Camila as she watched in horror the young man's body spinning in the air before crashing heavily onto the asphalt. Driven by an inexplicable force, her heart pounding desperately in her chest, she ran towards the accident scene. But it was at that moment she stopped, realizing with chilling clarity that everything was exactly as it had been in her dream. Everything was identical. As she approached, she saw the motorcyclist, a young man, lying on the ground, blood pooling around him. She almost stumbled back when she realized his face was uncannily familiar. The very face she had seen all her life in her visions. Could it be? Was this the son she never had the chance to know, now lying before her, injured and vulnerable? "It can't be," she whispered to herself, her mind reeling as reality and dream collided with overwhelming force. "Oh my God, is it you?" she said aloud, her hands trembling as she reached towards the man's face. "Please stay with me," she begged. On that fateful night, destiny wove its most intricate web around Camila. As a crowd gathered around the gravely injured man, a doctor who happened to be passing by cried out for someone with universal blood. Without hesitation, Camila stepped forward. "I'm O negative. I can do it," she said. The precious life-saving blood could stem the tide of death. She wouldn't let what she saw in her dream come true. She would save him with an impromptu transfusion that the doctor administered. Little did she know, she was saving her own flesh and blood. Her son lost 30 years ago. At the hospital, after the tension of the emergency had subsided and the young man was stabilized, Camila stayed by his bedside, driven by an impulse she herself didn't fully understand. She stared at him, incredulous, as nothing made sense. When he finally opened his eyes, their exchange of looks was charged with incredible intensity. He thanked her for saving his life, but wanted to know more about her. Camila, hesitant at first, shared fragments of her life. The abandoned childhood, the years spent on the streets as a child, the struggle for survival. With every word, Camila recognized the painful scenes that had haunted her dreams, as if she had lived each moment of his suffering alongside him. She couldn't believe it. The young man was truly her son. Everything he described matched the visions she had seen. Overwhelmed by a force greater than herself, the words, "I am your mother," escaped Camila's lips, laden with 3 decades of pent-up emotion. Disbelief washed over his face, but as she recounted the story of her premature pregnancy, the forced separation, and the years of anguish and premonitory dreams, something within him resonated. It seemed too crazy to be true, but deep down, it was as if they had always known this reunion was meant to happen. They talked for hours in that hospital room, deciding to dispel any lingering doubt by taking a DNA test with a kit available at the clinic. The wait for the results was excruciating, each second stretching into what felt like hours. However, when the verdict finally arrived, confirming the bond, the waiting room of the hospital turned into a reservoir of overflowing emotions when the blood test confirmed their bond. By then, everyone knew the story. Camila had immediately informed her husband after her discovery, and upon his arrival, he rushed to the hospital room. His eyes found the young man who had always occupied a place in his heart, even in his absence. "My son," he exclaimed, tears streaming freely down his face in a moment of pure emotional catharsis. That moment was marked by a whirlwind of emotions: confusion, joy, tears, and above all, a sense of completeness. Despite Italo's mind grappling with the improbability of the situation, his heart recognized the truth in the words of this couple. They were indeed his family, a family that, against all odds, had been reunited by destiny, science, and a profound, supernatural, and unbreakable bond that not even time could sever. Camila, Alexander, and their newly discovered son, now 30 years old, shared tears, embraces, and looks of disbelief and love. "We found you, my love, we found you. Oh Lord," Camila spoke, holding him tightly. "I always knew somewhere in my heart that you were out there and hoped we would meet again," she whispered, clutching her son's hands. Alexander, with tears in his eyes, added, "My son, our family was never complete without you. We've been waiting for this moment our entire lives." The reunion in the hospital was not just a celebration of a family coming together, but also a moment of profound revelations. The young man shared stories of his life, from hardships to achievements. With each word, his parents felt a mix of sorrow for what had been lost and joy for finally being able to offer him the love and support they had always wanted to give. In the following days, Italo met his siblings, who welcomed him with warm curiosity and fraternal hugs. The family shared stories, old photographs, and memories, reconstructing the lost decades. Initially hesitant, Italo began to open up, enchanted and moved by the supernatural story of how his mother had always dreamed of him, guiding her in her relentless search. "And to think you were always with me in my dreams, leading me to you," Camila said in wonder. Alexander organized a welcome dinner at home, a banquet symbolizing not just their reunion but the unbreakable bond of the family. Laughter, conversations, and even a few tears marked the occasion, with Italo at the center, still absorbing the reality that he now had a family that loved him and had always loved him, even from a distance. Raising his glass in a toast, Alexander exclaimed, "To our family, united against all odds." And so, amid hugs and plans for the future, the story of Camila, Alexander, and Italo found its happy ending. It was not just the conclusion of a long search but the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, filled with love, reunions, and the promise of countless happy moments together. A tale of loss and reunion, of dreams and destiny that would stay with them forever, reminding them of the unbreakable power of familial love. If you enjoyed this story, surely the next one appearing on your screen will also surprise and move you. A big hug, and I hope to see you in our next video.